Hey, fun fans! Coming up on this week of FRC Round Up, we'll be taking a look at the thread from Chief Delphi referencing to stop yelling robot in the pits, a recap of the Indiana Robotics Invitational that happened this past weekend, and do we need new air tanks? All of this and more coming up on this edition of FRC Roundup, Off-Season Edition.
This stream on First Updates Now is supported by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. Apply the skills you gained as a first student or mentor and help change the world at Stryker. Stryker is the top career choice for many of those in FIRST because of their commitment to innovation and saving lives. Learn more about the incredible culture at Stryker and view their thousands of positions available around the world at careers.stryker.com. Discover MSOE, where hands-on learning today can lead to real-world applications tomorrow, including their We Energy STEM Center built to support FIRST teams. Head on over to msoe.edu/visit to see a virtual tour and schedule your campus visit today.
All right, welcome to the show. If you have not caught our show previously, FRC Roundup is where we take a look at anything hot in FRC, highlight some discussion points about events that may have happened, strategy, or anything that correlates with FRC. If you, the fun community, think that there is a topic that we should discuss on FRC Roundup, please feel free to ping me on the fun Discord, and I will be more than happy to take a look at it. If you are not familiar with me, my name is Nick Mathis, and I'm currently in the 1st and Michigan region and was previously with Team 4130.
And I am Connor McBride, mentor for Team 166 Chop Shop and game announcer in the New England District. Our guest tonight is Cory Walters from Team 2767 Strike Force. Cory is currently an early talent specialist with Stryker, recruiting students in FRC to come work for Stryker. Cory, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Connor. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me. I'm sure we're going to have a blast on this FRC Roundup tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump right into our first topic. So I think it was about 2 weeks ago, the original thread had came up about please stop shouting robot in the pits. I know that this has been a hot topic for the past couple of years, and has continued to be an issue. I guess personal opinion for me, I have never been a big fan of the screaming at the top of your lungs robot in the pits. When I was with 4130 and was drive coach in the 19 and 20 seasons, we always made it apparent to obviously have one person, in front of the cart, politely directing traffic, just saying, hey, we're coming behind you, excuse me, yada, yada, yada. I feel like there's a proper way to do it, and screaming robot at the top of your lungs is not the way to do it. So this ended up kind of slightly turning into a meme, and StopYellingRobot.com was born out of this, and now they're selling T-shirts. So if you haven't had a chance to get one, get one. But overall opinion, I think this is a good thread to bring to light of maybe some morality in the pits of FRC and how to politely ask people to move and what we should do moving forward. So Connor, I'll go ahead and throw it to you, and then we'll go ahead and go to Cory.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I wouldn't say that it's just been like a thing for past few years. It's basically since like the dawn of time. This has been like an argument back and forth for stop yelling robot. But yeah, like I agree with what Alan was saying in the thread. You definitely like a polite excuse me. So you can be a little bit more vocal about it. And sometimes because when you're at an event, the music's blaring and a lot of people are maybe paying attention to other pits that you're passing by. So sometimes you might just need a little bit more emphasis, but I don't think you need to necessarily scream robot. Nice excuse me goes a long way as well.
Yeah, so Cory, in your stance, obviously you're currently drive coach with 2767, and obviously I'm sure you've been victim to being screamed out of robot, but overall thoughts on the topic?
It's not the word robot. It's just don't yell.
Yeah.
Right. Robot isn't the problem. It's just stop yelling. If you're coming up behind somebody, let them know that there's something behind you. That could be a robot. That could be, excuse me, whatever word you want to use.
Right.
But just don't yell at people and be polite about it. That's all this is about. I know for our team, we've got protocol on how we push the cart through with the robot. You have a pusher, then you have ideally 2 people in front in the top corners of the cart to kind of keep people away so you don't run them over. But it's simple. Just don't yell at people and be polite. The word robot can be replaced with anything you want.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, go ahead, Connor.
No, we're kind of the same way on 166. So I'm also the drive coach for 166. So I always make sure that whether if it's me or another student pushing the cart, having one student in front and then having one behind, and then sometimes a student may end up on the side, depending upon what side of the aisle that we're going down, just to kind of make sure we have a little bit of a buffer so we're not running into people. But yeah, just I guess making sure that you have someone around, at least on the front and the back side of the cart, so that people are aware that something's moving, so you don't run your cart into people that still decide just to stand there and not do anything.
Right. Yeah, and I remember, and one thing I think where it kind of stems from too is I've been, was it Greater Pittsburgh? I think week 3. They had actually announced in the pits at the start of the competition, encouraging people to scream robot. And then I think within a half hour, maybe somebody had like corrected them on the topic or whatever, but then they like went over the loudspeaker of the pit scan, was like, "Hey, just a heads up, let's not do what we just told you to do a half hour ago." So yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic for sure. But
and I think it depends where you are and the venue you're at. Like if you're at Worlds, there's a ton of people walking around. So yeah, you're gonna want protection and all around the robot. If you're at a district that's got ludicrous amount of space, then or in regional that's got ludicrous amount of space, then you don't need to have someone yelling robot all the time. You just say it when things get tight and people know that there's a possibly 200-pound item rolling around behind you.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
What are your thoughts on using like any kind of like noise maker or anything? I know I'm not too keen on that, but I know that some teams have used that instead of like yelling robot or yelling something else. Like, what do you guys think about that?
So I know, I mean, Cory might remember, but I'm pretty sure Kyle Hughes on Rush was using a bell this year, and she'd walk in front of the robot and just ring the bike bell.
Bring out your bed.
Yeah, I'm not against it necessarily, as long as it's not like a police siren on your robot cart that's ear piercing. Yeah, an air horn or something, right? If it's something subtle like a bell, like a bike bell, even would not be a big deal. But once you add a bike bell, then everybody's got a bike bell, and then it turns into another noise, pollution, and it just is just walk in front. Somebody say, "Excuse me." I don't think it's too big of a deal from that end. But, Tyler, anything to add?
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, 3 out of the 4 of us were at IRI this off season. How was the robot yelling at IRI for you two, Cory and Nick?
I know I had people on my team saying robot in the pit when it was moving, but it wasn't yelling. It was people who were next to it, and they just said, "Hey, robot behind you," and that was it. There wasn't no like stink eye, nothing like that. A little bit of situational awareness for being in the pit on your own personal half will go a long way.
Yeah, I didn't really have it. I didn't at least hear anybody screaming robot. I thought this weekend actually went pretty smoothly, and the pits were set up pretty well at IRI for that end. But
yeah, and I was in the pits a lot Saturday, right, because we were filming behind the bumpers and that sort of thing. I think, honestly, there was only like one team to me that was a little maybe obnoxious with it. It seemed like everybody else got it for the most part, which is kind of, IRI is that laid-back vibe anyways, right?
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, before we go ahead and jump into our next discussion, we're going to go ahead and bring on Tyler Beck and Cory to talk about our friends from Stryker.
Oh, don't spoil it, though. I was going to bring Cory in like that, man. So I did ask him right before if we could do that. Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot to Stryker and Stryker Careers once again for helping fun stay loud, live, and independent. And I could talk all I want about Stryker, but Nick's right. Cory does work for Stryker. So I'd love to just hear, Cory, just a little bit from you, like 2 sentences, like what makes Stryker awesome to work at? What do you say to somebody who's considering coming to Stryker? Why it's such a great place to go to?
Yeah. It's just a great workplace. So we just had this past Thursday, we just brought in a bunch of first students to kind of check out like a facilities tour out in here in Michigan. And like the biggest thing is like, even though it's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, even when you get down to like the nitty and gritty things, you still have like startup feel and startup appeal to it. Like we're not all working on one giant project. There's 1,000 little projects going on at the same time. So don't be like scared because it's like, like giant company. Like there's definitely niches that are going on.
And you guys, internship portals, I think, are opening up soon. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. So the internship portal should be opening up here in September. So if that is something of interest to you, please apply. We'll have like these evergreen recs that will open up. Currently this year, we have like 280 interns across the U.S. We're definitely forecasting a higher number this coming year. So if you get interested, the medical field, medical device technology, reach out, apply, and I will do my darnest to get you in.
Yeah. And by the way, you see a lot of companies right now, a little bit of shakiness going on, not sure, if things are going to go, if the big R word, right, with their session is going to hit or something like that. Make sure you go check out careers.stryker.com for some awesome opportunities to look at. And thanks a lot to Stryker and Stryker Careers. Now, Cory, before I said just 2 sentences, so give me just like 3 words that describe Stryker to you. 3 words, only 3.
Passion, dedication, and growth.
And that's careers.stryker.com. Thanks a lot, Cory. Thanks a lot to Stryker for all our support. Really appreciate it.
Definitely the best ad we've had all year, just for the record. But all right, so go ahead and jumping into our next topic. We're going to be taking taking an overall look at the Indiana Robotics Invitational this past weekend. So as Tyler had said earlier, Cory, myself, and Tyler were all there this weekend as well, and I know Connor, you were watching as well throughout the weekend. But this was my first time actually getting to go to IRI. It's been a work in progress. I've been trying to go for the past couple years, and finally was able to make my way down there. But I had nothing but great things to say. Andy Mark and Andy and his group of folks from Indiana put on a really good event. I know it's obviously more than just Andy and Andy Mark that put that together, but it really does live up to the IRI hype. I'll say, it's just a level of competitiveness that you can't really describe until you're there. But I guess I'll kind of go with an overall look if you didn't get to catch it, and then I know Connor and Cory want to hit some highlight points, but 33 went ahead and seated first with the best schedule at the event. And then 2056, second, 183rd, 4499, 195, and 2767 to round out the top 6. 33 went ahead and selected 2056 and declined. Yes, 33 knew that ahead of time, and we just did it for the drama. But 2056 went on and selected 180, and 33 would select 1706. And then 4499 would select 118 out of, and they were ranked relatively, they were ranked 11th. Yeah, they climbed up Saturday morning. And then 195 select 67, and then 2767 was able to pick up Robo Jackets, and the rest was kind of history from there. Coming out of elims, to be honest, the alliance that I really actually thought was going to win was that number 5 alliance of 2767 and 3538, and that's not even any joking to Cory. I just 3538 and 2767 Saturday morning were competing significantly better than everybody else in the competition, in my opinion, outside of OP. But they made it through the quarters relatively easy. They should have made it out of the semifinals, and we'll discuss that in the next topic. But I think if anybody was going to give the number 2 seed a run for their money, it was probably that 5 seed. So it would ended up being the 1 seed and the 2 seed in the finals. It was semi-close for finals 1 until about halfway through. 33 ended up having some communication issues in the finals and DC'd both finals matches. And let me just take a chance and give some love to 1706. They were I briefly got to watch them on the live stream when they were at championships. But obviously I wasn't there, so I didn't get to see a ton of robots in person. But they absolutely carried the number 1 alliance, and it was not even close. There's the volume of cargo that they shoot a match is insane, and we ended up the 1 seed did getting a red card in the semifinals due to how much cargo intake 1706 was taking, because it just ended up becoming egregious of how many cargo they were holding at a time, although they weren't breaking the rule. So it was more or less, a strategic advantage at that end. But I know, Cory, you were obviously there, part of that 5 seed. Overall thoughts on IRI?
Yeah, it was a fantastic event. Once again from IRI, they had some venue changes from like the Lawrence schools down
Yeah.
to Columbus. So definitely some changes there. Even though it was a long walk from like load into the pits, I think they handled it very well logistically and how things were laid out and what was available to them. Yeah, we got to the semis, and we'll talk about a little later about all the pressure that was going on.
The puns.
But yeah, we picked up Robo Jackets, we picked up Bedford, and we picked up Hilltoppers on the way back down, which I thought was nuts that they were still around. But yeah, great venue. I don't think the team list was as strong as it's been in past years. I don't think there's any discredit to IRI. I think that's just the logistics of the economy
Traveling
we're
right
in
now,
and the cost of travel skyrocketed. I definitely would like to see Hawaiian Kids, Jack in the Bot, Spectrum, Engine Nerds, you name it from the original list, be able to come in. But still a good show, and definitely highlight big matches going on from IRI as usual.
Hey Cory, I want to ask you in one match, since you mentioned Hilltoppers, that you did put in Hilltoppers for one of your matches, and honestly, in my opinion, I thought they outperformed Bedford when they were in. How come they didn't stay in the remainder of the time?
That's a good question. There's a lot of debate back and forth within the alliance, and we were trying to be pretty open with that discussion between Bedford and Hilltoppers. I think a lot of it had to do with, like, from me, experience of seeing Bedford as far as like within the state of Michigan, because the ceiling for Bedford was the best teleop score in Michigan, but Bedford wasn't running the same drive team as they were during the competition. So me personally, I felt that Bedford had a higher ceiling than Hilltoppers as far as what they could potentially get to. But on the same note, the match the Hilltoppers were in, they came back with they had like their lower hood wasn't able to go all the way up, so they could only take their high shots. But that wasn't like the deeming factor for them not going in. There was definitely lots of discussions back and forth about who to put in. It was not like a cut dry situation. And if I had time to like sit and like watch all the match videos like between matches, I think we'd have been a better call maybe to switch some things up. But there was so much stuff going on between.
And not trying to call you out, just wondering, when you're looking at it as an alliance captain, when you have to choose between two teams that both have good outputs on it as well. I do know, talking to from somebody on 1732s, that they did bend something after they played in that one match. So that's why I wasn't sure if they didn't get that repaired or what the story behind that was.
No, they got it repaired, and it wasn't due to the detriment of like 1732's performance. Like, it was fantastic, and even in our last qual match with 1732 and 118, like, they put up some massive numbers to help keep somebody in first place.
Yeah, for sure. So Connor, being from a spectator standpoint, watching from home, overall thoughts that you had, or anything interesting you thought you'd bring up?
Yeah, so I almost wasn't a spectator. I was this close to purchasing a flight.
Oh, really?
Indiana. I was this close. Like, I was gonna leave after work, or like have a flight out from Manchester at 6 on Friday night, get in at midnight, and then fly out Indy back home at 2 a.m. Monday, so I can be at work by noon on Monday. However, flights were like $1,500 round trip, and I'm poor, so that's not happening.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, a year ago, sure, why not? I'll fork out the $300 to $400 it probably would have been, but there's no way I could have done that. Especially with some upcoming travel that I might have later on, but that's for another time if that happens.
You're coming to Israel too?
No.
Oh, okay. Never
mind. No, but I always love watching IRI. I definitely agree with you guys that it definitely didn't seem as of a high caliber event as it normally is. So to put it into perspective for like some teams, like the usual suspects that you'd see, like, you'd see like 111, 359, 1114, Spectrum, Jack in the Bot. And then we started to see some breakout teams that would have really, really upped the ante for IRI, like Valor and Mechanical Advantage.
Yeah, Valor was a big one I was hoping to see, and unfortunately they weren't able to make it out. But
Yeah, to see them back out, and a lot of it was because of the price for traveling, and some teams, like for example, like 1923 had to back out because for the school guidelines for COVID restrictions changed last second. But regardless, I mean, it was still an awesome event to watch, and still a lot of awesome teams. At the beginning, it was a little dodgy stream wise, like for the first few qual matches. So they had the static cameras up for each hangar for the entire match. So there was a good chunk of the field that you weren't able to see. And with the power of the peanut gallery in the stream chat, we were able to tell them, like, hey, only for endgame, please. And it worked out pretty well. Other than that, like, it was great being able to watch from home. Who doesn't like watching robots, and especially IRI?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things I just want to quickly mention that I did miss a little bit is that there wasn't any RSN coverage or anything like that.
That is true.
For the event. Things just didn't work out. There's not really a rhyme or reason behind it, but things just didn't work out that way. And I know we'll see. I'm pretty sure we're going to see them at Chesney Champs. I don't want to make any commitments on their behalf for that. But yep. I think for me, I've always liked that during playoffs. Quals, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really care during quals at all about having the extra stuff. It's quals. Nobody remembers it for the most part, right? But during playoffs, I think that added a nice dynamic to have as well too.
I think quals are rough. I think it took some time for people to like knock the rust off too before things got real heated. It was pretty soppy sometimes. People missing climbs and things of that nature.
Yeah, Tyler, I guess one question for you. I know obviously watching from home, the RSN stuff was always on the stream, but was the RSN stuff also tapped into the stream, like at the venue? So like the play-by-play they were doing after the match, was that also broadcasted at the venue, or was that streamed?
So it was video, I think, was broadcasted for it, but I don't think audio was pumped into playoffs. Okay. But I could be wrong. That's what comes up off the top of my head. I think for quals, I think they just wanted to keep the matches going and not worry about that. But I'm pretty sure for playoffs that they have their audio pumped in. Maybe somebody
that's pretty sweet, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, before we go ahead and jump into our final topic of the night, we're going to go ahead and bring Tyler back to talk about the Milwaukee School of Engineering and to start our giveaway.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got an awesome giveaway tonight, an awesome sponsor to talk about, Milwaukee School of Engineering. So our friend Jared, who we alluded to a little bit before with the t-shirts, to Stop Yelling Robot t-shirts, he DM'd me a little bit before the show and said, hey, do you want to give away one of these t-shirts for the show? And I'm like, absolutely, right? So these are awesome. So make sure you go check it out. We'll post their website in chat if you're interested in getting one of these. But we will give away your choice of color and size. Shipping in North America only for our winners, just as an FYI. But I guess if you're in Israel, we'll ship it to me and I'll bring it out to you. So if you're interested in winning this, we actually said the keyword before. I don't think on purpose, but it's going to be excuse me. Excuse me. Type that in chat. 2 words. Excuse me is your keyword for that. We're going to draw in a little bit. But before we do that, let's hear a little bit more about our sponsor, the Milwaukee School of Engineering, and a great college for you to consider if you or a student of yours is looking to advance themselves in engineering.
What if you could work side by side with the leader in your field from day one? Can a city be both big and small, where you'll find opportunity and community in the same place? What if hands-on learning today led to real-world application tomorrow? What if next-generation technology brought your ideas to life? What if the people who push you forward are also the ones to pull you up? And can the next 4 years get you ready to take on the next 40? MSOE. Rethink what's possible.
All right. So jumping into our last topic of the night, as we have alluded to, do we need new air tanks? if you were watching the Indiana Robotics Invitational this weekend or happened to be there and right next to it, Cory was in the match. Tyler
Yeah,
was right
yep.
next to it, and I was right around the corner, so we were able to see it. But essentially, about 15 or 20 seconds into teleop, um, 5712 Hemlock's Gray Matter was swiping the end of the field, and 1023 was coming across the field at a high speed. And essentially, in this bottom left corner, you're going to see it here, but 5712 swipes into the back of 1023 in their intake, breaks the frame perimeter, and actually hits a clippered air tank, and it exploded on the field. So shrapnel was flying everywhere. Thankfully, nobody was injured due to this, and somebody seriously could have been injured from this. But does this start the discussion of maybe switching to an air tank that doesn't explode upon impact? I know this is a very specific, or very specific. Sorry, I can't talk tonight. Very specific circumstance that happened here, and obviously this doesn't happen super often. But the fact that it happened once and we got away with nobody getting hurt means we need to be proactive about the situation so it doesn't happen again. I know, back in 2019 at championships it happened, and I know that back in 14 or 15, it might have been earlier than that, when they had actually outruled the white air tanks to not be used because of improper fittings being tightened. They can actually blow up as well. So we had moved from that, and I think we might need to make another statement here and move away, or possibly modify some robot rules to add some protection to the placement of these air tanks. So I guess for my overall thought, I am okay if they were to require a metal or aluminum, some sort of metal air tank. But I guess with the caveat of that, if they're going to do that, I think we should also bring back the offboard compressor. If we're going to require a more sturdy and more heavy air tank, the one of the nice things about the clippered air tanks is they're light and they're relatively small, so you can kind of stick in places where other things might not fit on the robot, and you can kind of position them in a certain way. But Cory, you were playing in that match. It happened relatively right in front of you. So overall thoughts on the air tank explosion, and we can go into the missed call. But yes, it 100% should have been a red card, and the Five Alliance should have been moving to the finals. But unfortunately, the refs did not see it, and there was no card called.
Yeah, no, didn't see it. Everybody heard it, but they didn't see it. Yeah, so the explosion happened. If you weren't there, it sounded like a firework went off.
Oh yeah, louder than a firework.
You could see, like, from my station, as far as in the driver's station, you could see like a large black piece coming across the carpet. But there's also pieces that went into the stands.
Yeah.
So the pieces that probably went in the stands, those are going to be the smaller pieces. The bigger pieces aren't going to go as far, but it's really the small pieces getting in people's eyes and the stands that you're probably most worried about. The event happened. I went over to Bedford. I said, "Hey, did you guys lose your pneumatics? And then I can move your intake in and out." And they couldn't. And they also used a pancake cylinder to hold their climber down, so which means their climber deployed during the match, which then gave us a penalty because then they're too tall. And it's like, come on. Just cascade events going down the line. As far as like pneumatics, as far as like the clippered tank and whether we should have them or not have them, I mean, it's tough because we've had 2 instances and we've been using these tanks for going on almost a decade now.
Right.
You're probably also using clipper tanks that aren't supposed to be used this way too. Like, you're not supposed to be strapping them to robots and smashing them with intakes.
Right.
You got 140 pounds going at each other. I think maybe there should be some rules on, if you do use a plastic air tank, it's got to be protected and safe. Within your machine. I know when the white ones were blowing up, there was talk about people putting sleeves around those, so in case it did happen, it was safe. So there was talks about that when that originated. But I'd like to see some more options out there for teams, be it aluminum or like the big scuba tanks that teams are using. and get them elsewhere. And I guess we'll just have to wait and hear back from First and Clippard on the rules on it, because foremost out of everything, it's going to be safety for the event. We
Right.
don't want someone getting hurt.
Exactly. And important to note too, Andy Baker from Andy Mark was at the event and was able to gather the pieces of the intake and was able to get some photos, I believe, and sent them to various people at HQ to make them aware of the event. I believe both of Al and Mark were both tagged on that, as well as Kate Pilati as well from First, and making them aware of the situation. And what do we do from here? Do we I think regardless, now that it's happened twice within 3 years, I think now we've seen it, that we know of, again, they could have been blown up in people's shops and we're just not seeing it, or something, or at a scrimmage, and it's not on this super large public platform like IRI or championships. But I do think something needs to be done, whether it's adding a sleeve or writing in the rules. It needs to be somewhat protected. Not at fault of Bedford, but it was relatively exposed on the back of the robot. But Connor, overall thoughts on the issue? Could you hear it on stream?
Oh, it sounded like a cannon.
Oh boy.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't jump nearly as much as everyone else in the crowd, but it certainly startled me for sure. No, I can go kind of two ways, at least two ways on this. If we wanted to move away from the Clipper tank, I have no problem going to a metal tank, but preferably something that's relatively the same size. I don't want like this massive scuba tank that I have to like throw off the back of my robot, or kind of fish its way inside the center of it, because that's a design challenge just on its own, to be able to encompass that in your robot if you have to. But if we continue to just use the Clipper air tanks, no problem with that, but I'd love to be able to see some added safety rules for that. So I know, for example, one of the things is like pinch points in your robot, no sharp corners, whatever. So like you probably, like when you're doing any kind of gear reductions, 99% of the time you need some kind of like shroud or any way to be able to, so that you don't get your fingers caught in the gear teeth, or else the robot inspectors, they're gonna not pass you during robot inspection. If you can be able to do something like that, or like some rule that your air tank needs to be X amount of inches, or like inside of her frame perimeter, not just kind of like sitting there off to the side, or at least in a area that's just not going to get absolutely destroyed. Because we've seen a lot of that was the most common foul, was contact inside the frame perimeter this season. So not to say that like it was like a really bad idea to put it there, but that's kind of a bad idea to put your air tank in a spot that was most commonly going to get hit. And that's no shot at 1023. That's just a general thing. Like, you don't want to be putting exposed stuff like there. That's like putting your power switch like right on the side and putting like a big target that says "hit me."
Yeah. Well, people do that too.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, and Bedford will say it firsthand. Even Shelby from 1023 is in chat, and she even said, the take placement was pretty terrible on their part. So they're aware of it. They know it's probably not the best area, but I do think it's important to highlight. And if it's gonna happen, I'm gonna say this: if it's gonna happen, I'm glad it happened at IRI on a platform where it is watched significantly, and hopefully it raises some eyebrows at HQ. But again, Sky from chat as well, noting, Clipper did not intend, for this use case. So they can only do so much. But, chat 100% against outlawing the Clipper tanks as well. So, interesting to note there on what the small sample size of the community had to say as well.
Yeah.
I think the most important part about this, Nick and Cory, is that like no one got hurt during it. So,
for sure.
And that's just another added thing of safety first. So
Yep. And you can add other things too. Like you can look at, we had giant flywheels this year, right? We had people had bike wheels in 2020.
True.
Like if that comes off the robot,
oh boy,
that's huge potential energy. This is potential energy inside of a tank.
It's like a tire coming off your car. Yeah.
Yeah. So draw your line where you want it, like
for sure.
These are not foolproof safe machines. These are 140-pound dangerous things, and
right.
Things will go wrong. That just happen to be an air tank. and we should do the best we can to avoid it.
Yep, totally agree. All right, well, before we go ahead and wrap up for the night, we're going to go ahead and bring Tyler back on to draw for the Stop Yelling Our Robot t-shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, thanks again to Jared for providing the giveaway on there, and make sure you go to stopyellingrobot.com, which is a redirect to your Great Chief Delphi thread about it. So, spoiler. So if you're interested in winning that, once again, if you're interested in winning that, excuse me, 2 words was the keyword to type in. If you do win, by the way, please shoot me a DM, preferably on Discord, with your first name, last name, mailing address, zip code. I know that's part of mailing address, but I always have to say zip code. And also what shirt size you want as well, too, if you do win. So let's go ahead and draw for that. And the winner is going to be somebody who can't win.
Come on!
Oh, reroll.
Draw again.
No yelling, Nick.
I'm not rigging this, I swear to God. Connor just got drawn too. So. All right, let's try that one more time.
Oh, man.
This is why it's picking people who are all right. Dandelions, I know you're in Israel, but since I'm coming in, I will bring that with. So congratulations for winning. I love that the first 2 people are not eligible and the third one doesn't live in the States. So congratulations, everybody. Thanks again. Please, lots of rigged emotes in chat. Clearly that's been rigged. So congrats to that. Thanks again to Jared for that. Dandelions, I'll get it shipped to my house and I will bring it out to Israel for you. So congratulations to everybody, and thanks again to Jared for the sweet giveaway.
The hosts strike again.
Let's go. Yep. Yeah, thanks, Jared, for offering the t-shirt up. But yeah, thank you to all of you for tuning in to FRC Round Up Live or watching on the archive. Special thanks to all those who clicked that follow button or stepped up to help fund with a Twitch subscription or donation. Your support really helps us continue to make great content. Don't forget, you can watch FRC Roundup archive at youtube.com/first updates now, and watch live Mondays after FRC recap during the competition season, or monthly now that we are in the off season. Thank you to Cory from 2767 Strike Force again for coming on. On behalf of our producer Tyler Olds, my co-host Connor, and all fun correspondents, I'm Nick Jr., and thanks for watching. Good luck to any teams that may be competing in off-season events before our next show. See you next time, same day, same time, where we take a look at what is going on in FIRST Robotics on FRC Roundup. Thanks, everyone.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. Discover MSOE, where hands-on learning today can lead to real-world applications tomorrow, including their We Energy STEM Center built to support FIRST teams. Head on over to msoe.edu/visit to see a virtual tour and schedule your campus visit today. If you are a college student or recent graduate looking for an incredible internship, take a look at Stryker. Stryker provides a housing stipend, great pay, and an opportunity to work with state-of-the-art medical technology equipment. Discover why so many FIRST alumni are coming to Stryker for their internship or career at careers.stryker.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/First Updates Now. Join our Discord at discord.gg/First Updates Now. And check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.